What I'm going to talk about today, I put a post in the feed sometime this morning talking about succession plans in Myanmar, the former Burma, and it made me think about Aung San Suu Kyi, who is the patriotic, brave leader who has been in she's been in prison or equivalent, shuttled between prison and house arrest, but a lot of prison for 20 years. The dear, beautiful, brilliant, inspiring leader is now, I think she'll be 81 in June, in not in the best of health. And the junta, the military dictatorship, decided 6 months ago that house arrest wasn't good enough, so they threw her back in prison because that's the kind of guys they are. And I say guys because this is this is Burma, this is Myanmar, and it's dudes. Not shocking. We would, in other times, in other U.S. administrations, we'd be more hopeful about putting pressure on Myanmar. They're a small country. They have very few legal resources and have a lot of political strife, but they are also not a protectorate, but China has some very strong interest in the country, not least of which because it's on the border. So that will be of particular interest to them always. They did a succession where, the head of the military put down his gun and his sword, and he's going to try to win the parliamentary elections and become the leader of the country. Not going to be he's not swimming upstream on that. And I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because I don't like to embarrass myself this early in the week. But it's you could see the clip. Now some of that clip is, of course, in Burmese, so it's a little bit more difficult to access. But there's a text version of that within the stream. So. Why am I, besides the beautiful and inspirational leader, why am I interested in Myanmar? Because that is one of the world's most important transshipment points for drugs. Specifically, it's historically. It has been, we're going to end up talking about fentanyl because that's what we talk about now. But going back, there is the Golden Triangle there in Myanmar, which is where Laos and Thailand meet, and a lovely part of the world. And the Mekong, which for those of you that studied a little bit about the Vietnam War, which is remarkably, 55 to 65 years ago now. All praise to the veterans. But the Mekong River, I think it's probably, say it begins up in the Himalayas, maybe up high, as rivers sometimes do, snow melt, and it runs through parts of China, parts of Myanmar, parts of Laos, parts of Cambodia, parts of Vietnam, and maybe Thailand as well. And then spills out in the Mekong Delta and on and on and on and on. It is a useful river as far as moving goods, legal and illicit alike. But the the interesting thing about the Golden Triangle, where those three countries meet, it's the the component parts of a lot of the drugs are made in manufactured in China. So when we're selling the distillates, the precursors to so many of those drugs are assembled, uh, put together in labs in Mexico, but China doesn't want to carry the weight of being a major illegal drug exporter. So a lot of these precursors go through Myanmar, which is essentially it's a lawless country. And what law there is provided by a corrupt military dictatorship. So they're not Joe Friday. They're not doing hard work. They're in the corruption business, which is why I mentioned, of course, a connection to the Trump family, because it's the same sort of operation. The only difference is that these clowns in Myanmar, former Burma, wear uniforms, and in the Trump sense, they're wearing monkey suits. But they're doing illicit things, corrupt things to make money, not to benefit their country men and women, or even the government of the country, but for themselves, selfishly, as Donald Trump does everything in life. But the kind of the dark secret of this, and this has been reported, if not well reported, is the very real fact that China can control, because they control everything in that part of the world, but they choose to control through their minions the amount of fentanyl precursors and component parts that make it ultimately to Mexico, and thereby the amount of fentanyl that makes it into the United States and into the bloodstreams of American citizens. And it's a cynical take on it, but there is some foundation to that, and particularly when you join it with TikTok. Stretch? No. Absurd? Yes. But what is absurd? What does absurd mean in this world where you have the president of the United States doing pressers on his plane, and 9 words out of 10 are a lie, that he misrepresents, you know, everything's trillions, that the Iranians can't wait to send us 20 or 30 or 40 tankers of oil, that, Bibi really didn't have anything to do with driving the timing of this adventurism, and and of course he probably will tell you that he doesn't really know Vladimir Putin. He is a Donald Trump lies more than any president has. He makes Richard Nixon look like a Boy Scout. For those of you that don't remember Tricky Dick Nixon, it's Watergate, it's the end of Vietnam, it's a lot of things. A marvelously talented politician, a brilliant man, a talented attorney, but power got the best of him. And in the Woodward and Bernstein, Watergate, Halderman, Ehrlichman, John Dean, and all of the funny things that happened in the Watergate era, Henry Kissinger dropping in and out. The gentleman I put that little bio Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was a brilliant historian and political operative for in the 60s and 70s in our country. And he helped JFK. He helped LBJ. He helped Richard Nixon, but not so much, and then kind of skipped over. And he was working at he was at Harvard. He was then at Columbia, and then he met Jimmy Carter and came back in and was Carter's national security director at some pretty important times in the United States, right up to and including the everything goes in circles, the Iran hostage deal, which began in '79. That there was an attempt to rescue the hostages that went terribly wrong well before Black Hawk Down. That was a disaster, and Brzezinski was a part of all of that, and he was very forward leaning on the importance of a military option to rescue hostages when it probably wasn't the best choice, and he went head to head with Cyrus Vance, whose son turned out to be ended up being the DA for New York, Manhattan DA, in that some role like that. In any case, another family dynasty. But what I wanted to just sort of touch on and kind of plant this seed, I did an essay on this almost a year ago, 6 months, and I'll dig it up and I'll repost it later today. But this is still an issue. The essay was long before Larry Ellison took over U.S. TikTok, right? And the fact remains, when I wrote about it then, and what I would write today, and what I'm telling you, is that the entire Trump plan. You'll recall that TikTok, if you would ask the Supreme Court or the Congress coming out of the Biden administration, TikTok's days were numbered. And as I also admitted, I was a late adopter because I had it in my mind that I didn't want anything to do with TikTok because it is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Chinese Communist Party. That remains true today. Different terminology, not wholly owned, but entirely controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. The control is in the algorithm. You could reasonably argue with me that the person that holds the data controls the most important asset. And I'll push back on that only because that level of control is diluted by the fact that although Larry Ellison, they set up a company to control U.S. user data, TikTok, that the Chinese Communist Party still has full access to all of that data. So they leased it back and forth, they rented it, they shared it, but they didn't take exclusive control of the U.S. user data in any way, shape, or form. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And the most important part, when it comes to influencing the emotional health, the behavioral health, the mental stability, the intellectual infrastructure, if you will, of American children and U.S. voters, that power still rests with the Chinese Communist Party because they control the algorithm. They control that from Beijing. They control that from ByteDance, the company that put TikTok together, and they're never ever going to relinquish that control to anyone in the United States. Larry Ellison is a rich and powerful man. Maybe he's the seventh most wealthy human in the universe, after Elon, Vladimir Putin, and then your other tech bros that were the co-equal latest lays on the White House lawn, as I talked about the other day. Zuckerberg and Bezos and certainly Tim Cook, who must have been looking marvelous when he was there at the Melania premiere. Absolutely despicable behavior by the leader of one of the most important companies in the world. But as we're going into the elections, and we've knocked out some wins and some primaries, and it's inspiring. We should, by all legal measure, all reasonable measure, control the midterms decisively. But of course, there's going to be a lot of shady shit going on. Compliments of your boy DJT, with masked ICE agents at or near polling stations, and 19 other disruptions that we'll talk about in podcasts to come, because there is so much there, and it's going to be an amorphous risk, because they're going to be coming up with new and shadier shit. We're also going to be watching, as we talked about last week, keeping weather eye on Hungary. Not that we're expecting rain in Budapest, but we're going to see how Vladimir Putin's crack team of election interference experts do to close the gap that's now down into single digits. What was a 15-point lead in Hungary for Mr. Peter Magyar is now single digits. And there will remain up until and through the election, there will be teams of GRU, FSB, every possible three-letter acronym that you can translate back and forth between Russian and English. They will all be there in some form or another, and doing and some of them will be making ads for the interwebs. Some of them will be out doing old-fashioned organizing on the streets. They will be hiring local folks to paying them to protest. They will be organizing, it's Hungary. It's not quite as digitally hip as we are here, or at least in parts of the country. They will be pulling out all of the proverbial stops to get that win for Mr. Orban, for Victor. And that will give us visibility into what Putin, and thus the Trump administration, is willing to do to steal an election. The dials, look at the tools and the dials that Larry Ellison, as a strong advocate for DJT, how does Vladimir Putin incentivize Larry Ellison to advantage Republican candidates in the midterms? His whatever that expression is, wonders to behold, because one thing, if we know one thing about Vladimir Putin, is no days off. It's a 7-day-a-week job, because you're running a number of countries, and you're interfering with elections in the United States, Germany, France. You're trying to sow smack and shit talk against Trump's enemies in the EU, including the PM of Spain and others. And while doing that, and while fighting a war, and while thinking about whether you'd rather take Greenland and let DJT do it, whether you want to repatriate Alaska, if so, when, and you want to give Hawaii to Xi Jinping as a door prize, all of these things, and then you want to spend the weekend, playing with your girlfriends and boyfriends on Ibiza or somewhere, somewhere sexy and fun, right? How do you do it? I'm amazed. If he weren't such a murderer and a reprehensible human being, I would tip the cap, because anytime somebody is wholly dedicated to their craft and successful, you have to at least acknowledge it, if not celebrate it. So I will acknowledge Vladimir Putin's tremendous accomplishments, and it's going to matter. And then on top of it, again, I'm talking about the dials. What if, as I hypothesized in my post earlier today, what if the Chinese Communist Party could sow maximum dissent going into the elections, in the month of September? They have this whole, AI is not fake news. So they can put together a plan, and they can sort of wait, not to delay, but to measure, strategize, focus the maximum amount of disruption compared to all the states, who's voting for what positions, on what day, what lead time, how much early voting in each state. Because certainly in some states that have early voting and mail-in ballots become available on X date, you want to get in earlier. Obviously, the larger states, you want to have an outsized impact. More votes, that's Fred Flintstone math. So you're welcome. But certain states, maybe some red states, you don't need as much help. Maybe some of them are voluntarily playing the Trump game against democracy. Excuse me. I kind of got stuck in the attic, and so I think I kicked a little dust around. So let's just pick a couple random, and I'm using these as examples without having researched the actual timing of early voting and mail-in ballot availability. But let's say certain states that are most likely to be sympathetic to MAGA and Trump, we'll say, Mississippi, red states below the Mason-Dixon line generally. They said, okay, you're right, Mr. President, even though we're hoping the SAVE Act doesn't make it, we don't give an F. We're going to do it anyways because, sir, you, Mr. Game Show host, worthy of our undying love and affection, we're going to say, yes, Donald. We're going to do it. Mr. Trump, yes, sir. Mr. President, sir. So those states say you can vote in person only. Don't give an F whether you're infirm, hospitalized, in the military, or going to see Beyonce. We don't care. You're going to vote in person during these 15 minutes on voting day only. F yourselves. Deal with it. That's a state like Mississippi. deep red MAGA state. We might have some of that, and there will be some plenty of lawsuits, uh, you know, votes, teams of attorneys from the ACLU, from the Brennan Center, from all of the beautiful people that fight Mark Elias, and all of those folks that will stand up and say no. That is contrary to the Constitution. But my guess is that they're going to try to do max disruption as close to the deadline as they can. And there just won't be enough time to fully litigate every issue before the vote. And you could say, well, we'll just kind of lock those ballots in a box and count them later. Well, that's going to be a problem too. You heard the Supreme Court arguments coming out of that. The case I just blanked on from that was argued by the Mississippi Solicitor General. It's going to be tough. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I spend a lot of time on it every day, it seems, but just analyze it to figure out the best way that you can do what you need to do early. You got all the ID. You're an unmarried person. You have never been married, and the name that was given to you at birth is still your name today. Then you have a certified copy of your birth certificate. Boy, girl, man, woman, alien, Yankees fan, cisgender, transgender, whoever you are, do that. Do that. If your name matches the name, if your current name, legal name, matches that on your birth certificate, have a certified copy of your birth certificate. Order online. $11.77 plus postage. Include $5 for expedited handling. Whatever it is, just do it. Do it now, because when it gets effed up in the USPS, then you got time to figure out what happened. And you got it and put it away somewhere safe. It's like, okay, so I got that one thing done. Real ID. Will my real ID certainly be valid into next year? Hopefully be valid through the 28 elections. If not, fix it. If you got married since that real ID was issued, do the necessary amendments to the file. Do what you need to do. Of course, as we talked about, the expensive, a little bit time consuming, but I was in my local post office a week ago today, maybe, and asked the nice gentleman that works there, what's the turn, what's in your experience, what are you hearing about turn times on passports? So you wouldn't believe it. I had people, my neighbors, came in and I processed it here for them through the post office, and they got their passport in less than 3 weeks. You can pay for expedited handling if you're traveling. You can get that faster, maybe not faster than 3 weeks. So if you have the big dog, which is the passport, you're good. It's expensive. Do you have other things in life you'd rather spend $165? All of us do. But if you will need it in any case for life, you have a business trip coming up, make your boss pay it for it. You have a business trip coming up in in Toronto, in the foreign countries. Well, Alaska will soon be a foreign country, Hawaii too. Just imagine that you're going to need to travel to your. What about? And I'm going to talk about something I haven't researched, which you might reasonably say, "What's the fucking difference with?" So, yeah, just snarky. That's fine. It's early in the week. I just thought about the World Cup. I'd love just for the entire World Cup 2026 to be transferred to Sydney, but that's just me. Somewhere, a country that would appreciate it and treat all visitors fairly. That would be fun. But what if you're a U.S. citizen and you want to go and watch a game in, say, you're a friend of, you're a fan of Ghana or Scotland or some other team that is playing some games in Canada or Mexico. Now, the part that I said I didn't research was, are those two countries more reasonable governments and leaders? Have they made provisions to ease the burden on travelers and be more welcoming because you want their money? So you're just you and me. We're going to go watch Scotland play. I'm just making this up. Scotland play Ghana in Montreal in June. Montreal is beautiful, and Montreal is beautiful 365. So major endorsement for Montreal at all times. Marvelously diverse community, great restaurants, great bars, other adult entertainment establishments, uh, historical museums. Drive only 2 hours outside of the city into the mountain. Everything they've got it. They've got it all, and it's a part of Canada where there's that French language influence along with the English. So it's marvelous. It's beautiful. So bottom line, if you can come up with $1.65, get the passport, because we don't know what these idiots are going to do. Save Act. Are they going? Is somebody going to whisper into Donald's ear in 2 weeks, saying, Mr. Trump, we did the math. We did this whole AI thing, and the best way to do this is to tell everybody that we're giving up on the SAVE Act and then spring it on everybody in September, because then they will be completely fucked for providing identification. There won't be enough time to renew passports, and we can really cause some maximum disruption. Now, if they did that in a very obvious way, then you would hope that the Supreme Court would step in and say, no, you can't do this. That is contrary to public policy, and you're a dope. You had a chance to do it. All you would talk about is this. You held up funding for ICE and Border Patrol in the interest of getting this passed, and you backed off of it. So live with it. Now, 2028, we're going to have big problems with voter ID and the whittling away of some minority majority districts, because the Supreme Court is going to take a whack at that once the decision comes through in that Louisiana, Calais. That's going to be not Debbie Downer here. Never met her. It'll make 28 extra challenging. It's a general election. More people will vote. We've got all the regular things, but the Supreme Court is going to make it tough. But right now, we're going to focus on 26. Excuse me. So, in any case, this is one of those absurdist thought exercises that I love doing myself. And I like dragging people down into my own personal hell to think about what is, that's what was that was from, that was from Eddie Murphy. We're going to call that 48 Hours. Nick Nolte. Let's see what we can fuck with next. Because that's what's going to happen, right? They're going to keep breaking things in an effort to tilt the playing field in the direction of the Republican Party. Continue to do that. We have to do everything we can do legally. And the things that are a little bit questionable, we just have to get into court early enough to get a resolution before the elections. I was just, as I was sitting in this chair and rocking back and forth, I'm hoping that I just noticed that it was making a little bit of a clicking noise. And so send me a note if that was really effing annoying, and I'll listen back myself. But obviously, I think I sound great. All the, pre radiation, post radiation. I think that I'm Luciano Pavarotti. So that's my impression of myself and my talents as an orator or as an opera singer, maybe another life. Yeah. So I'm concerned about this. Is Xi Jinping going to turn up the dial to 11 on those two consequential weapons? Meaning, can he disrupt to some degree, using TikTok as the distraction weapon it was designed to be, and at the same time flood additional fentanyl into the United States? I mean, flood through his Sinaloa connections in Mexico, causing disruption in that manner. It's dark, it's cynical, it's almost unthinkable, except we've learned that the Trump administration and the Republican Party will do anything, see above and below Minneapolis and beyond. They will do anything to win this election. So keep that in mind and temper your skepticism based on current behavior. I haven't seen any limitations. I haven't seen John Thune wake up yet. If you have, then say hi. Say hi for me, because he's got some shit to do, and maybe he'll be the very latest lay on the White House lawn, because the tech bros might be busy, like Zuckerberg paying $170 million for his new Miami Beach property. No, really, $170 million. Very nice piece of island real estate over on the beach. I think it's a Dade County record. Dade County record for residential property sale. 170 million. Yeah. So that's what Meta can do for you. What can we do? We can keep fighting. We can keep reading. We can keep studying. We can keep trying to figure out. I was going to say exit strategies. Back to Montreal, going to the World Cup, one-way ticket. I was joking, with my wife, right before, excuse me, when Trump 1.0, when he won the election before he took oath of office, I was just like, what do you think? It's 4 years. We could let's just Montreal. Me and you go up there, close enough. If any of the kids ever want to see us, get on a train, get on a plane, drive up, whatever. Skiing's great. I can't ski any longer, but it's that kind of place. It can't be any colder than Boston, maybe a little bit, but it's a beautiful city with beautiful people, and you can walk down the street and eat like it's not cheap. It's a major metropolitan area, but you can have the best Greek food one night, and then the very best Ethiopian food the next night, and then 19 different stops down the way, you can do the full UN in dietary delight. It is one of the greatest restaurant cities in the world. So, and the people are nice. Did I mention that? I didn't mention that first. Canadians, after all the effing bullshit that Trump put them through and continues to, the bravery and stoicism of Mark Carney, that these people, the Canadians, are not hating, disappointed in Trump, but we're still their brothers and sisters. So wonderful, and maybe for Trump 3.0, I'll convince my better half, but well, remains to be seen. So pleasure as always. Thank you, and I hope that the new setting. I think that I got my stand height wrong a little bit. I'm a little bit low on the screen. Was I making funny noises? Sit up straight, like my mother would say. Look straight into the camera. No, she'd never say that. Did I make funny rattling noises with the chair? I'm not sure. It'll be better than my inglorious exits over the past few days, because I was outside in the bright sunshine and couldn't find the off button. So this will be better. Thank you, and wishing you a beautiful day. And we'll do it all over again tomorrow sometime. Thank you.